Hello and welcome to another video. So today I am here to start the third vlog in my Reading the Wheel of Time series, where for each video I give you my real, as I'm reading, kind of reactions to Reading the Wheel of Time for the first time. There are 14 books in the series plus a prequel, and I have read the first two. The vlogs for those should already be up, and I am presently reading the third. So the third book is called The Dragon Reborn. The series is by Robert Jordan, and like always, I want to start this video by pointing out just the book editions and the different kinds of things that exist. So first, this is the third book in the newer mass market paperback editions. This is the book that I have, and it is the last book in the first boxed set. So I have since bought the second box set, and so you'll see those as I get to those books. But this is what this one looks like. It is red and has this silver like matte foiling. It's like embossed, and the Wheel of Time symbol thing with like the gear wheel and then the Great Serpent moves across the cover depending on which book you're on. The set of books that my boyfriend owns looks like this. So this is an illustrated cover, and it says The Dragon Reborn on it. Of the three books we've read so far, this is my favorite cover. I don't know why. It's the same art style and everything, but it's just kind of cool. I like how red it is. I like the boldness of the title here. And yeah, it's pretty nifty. This is quite an old edition. On the back, it doesn't even have the last two books listed. They weren't published when this was published, so pretty old. And yeah, these are the two books. This one he actually is reading from because the printing is not weird. So on the inside, the letters are all straight. We had some weird printing issues with the second book, but for the third one, all is good. We did start reading about a week ago, but the first several chapters were really, I just wasn't feeling it, so we were reading really slowly. Since then, yesterday we started on chapter 7, and now we are on chapter 16. So I felt like this was a good time to actually start this vlog, because otherwise I was going to get way too ahead. I wouldn't have enough time to really think about each individual thing. I would be talking about too great a chunk of the book at a time. So here I'm talking about chapters 1 through 15, and then of course the prologue. There is always a prologue. So The Dragon Reborn starts the prologue, and the prologue is from a weird point of view. Someone named Perrins Niall, and it involves the Children of the Light and how they are responding to the fact that Rand has announced and declared himself to be the Dragon Reborn. Not even necessarily deliberately. There was that whole battle at the end of the second book where, I don't know, magic, they were able to be seen across several miles. And so now there are very accurate artistic depictions of Rand fighting the Dark One flowing about the continent, and so people are starting to really see that the dragon might have actually been reborn, and the Children of the Light do not like that. They are just mad. But essentially what's going on is that one of the leaders in the Children of the Light are commanding this other guy to make sure that Rand does not die yet, because the Children of the Light want to use this opportunity to let Rand get some amount of power, or some amount of a following. However, ultimately they're going to wait until he eventually does something bad, because they're pretty sure that he's a false dragon, and they're pretty sure that he's a dark friend, and so they are convinced that eventually he's going to do something evil, or he's going to need to be put down, essentially. And so the Children of the Light really want to use this as a PR opportunity to go in and kill Rand and save everybody when there's a good opportunity for it, and then gain many more followers because they'll be saviors. So they don't want him to die yet. They don't like him, but they're waiting. And then there's this other set of people, dark friends, who are also working with this guy that is being given these orders, and now they're telling him to actually kill Rand. So for a really long time, the situation was that the Dark Friends were not trying to kill Rand. They were just trying to capture him, turn him to the dark side, like get him to work for the Dark One. And now people are being given orders to kill him. So something's changed in their plans, and it's not really clear what. Then for the first 100 pages, we are actually following mostly Perrin's perspective. And I thought that that was really interesting because we didn't see Perrin almost at all in the second book. He just hung back, traveled along with people, but he didn't necessarily do anything. And I don't know if we got any chapters from his point of view. So there's a lot going on with Perrin at the beginning. And it's mostly Perrin talking about catching us up on what life is like. They have been camped out for a while, and they're just kind of waiting. Moraine doesn't want anybody to leave. She doesn't want Rand to rush into anything, but she's waiting because she's convinced that their next steps will become apparent to him whenever it is best to follow those steps. And it's like super ambiguous, and she and Rand are always getting into arguments about it, and I don't get it. It was a little weird to me. But Rand is starting to really come into the power. He's really it's getting easier for him to channel, and that is a problem because even though it's easier for him to channel and he has access to a lot of power, Rand does not know how to control it very well. So when he eventually gets that power, it is not easy for him to know 100% what the outcome of using it is going to be. He might have one intent and then something else happens, or he might not intend for anything to happen at all. So that's a problem, and people are kind of scared of him, but also subservient. So the people from Valdara who were traveling with him, the soldiers have sworn themselves to him. They did that at the end of the second book, and they are still with him. And they're just waiting. They're just hanging out. But it definitely makes Rand feel weird to be like idolized in this way. And so he is kind of separated from the camp. And that's the situation we're walking in on. They've been there for a while. And I don't know, it was weird. I feel like there's so many mixed messages happening, especially for Rand. Like, I just feel so bad for him. He's one of my favorite characters, and I feel like there are people putting him up on a pedestal, which he doesn't want. And then the people who aren't doing that because they're supposedly his friends are also not really supporting him because they're too afraid of him. And I get that the situation is scary, but I don't know. I just kind of wish that people were friendlier to him. Like, Perrin goes to try to talk to him and comfort him, but the conversation it doesn't really go anywhere. And then Rand accidentally shakes the mountain and people freak out. So that happens. They get attacked by Trollocs because, you know, you can't go too long without getting attacked by Trollocs. And yeah, and then Rand leaves. So they get attacked by Trollocs, and Rand suffers a pretty severe injury. Well, he reopens the severe injury that he got at the end of the second book. And so then he's bleeding, and he's just really wanting things to stop. He is not into being the dragon. He doesn't like that Moraine isn't letting him go to do anything. And there is this prophecy that the blood of the dragon will fall on the rocks of Shale Ghul. And so Rand makes this really dark joke about how he's bleeding now. Why doesn't he just go to the rocks, smear some on there, like fulfill the prophecy, and then one way or another things will be over. He's either gonna die, or maybe somehow miraculously he'll actually defeat the Dark One. And Moraine makes it really clear that that's not really how the prophecies work. You know, when there's the time for it will happen, and you can't always take them at face value. It may sound like something should happen, but in reality something else happens. But it's the first sign that Rand is not down with staying anymore. So in the night he actually leaves. He just goes off, and the idea is that he is probably headed to Tyr, where there's this like room. It's actually, I think it's the cover of this book. There is this room inside a building. The building Tyr is like a fort or something, and inside of it is this sword, Calendor, I believe. And I don't remember I have no idea what's so special about that sword, but it's a special sword that will be needed to like defeat the Dark One. Like once, it can only be wielded by the dragon reborn, and it's one of the signs that the dragon has really been reborn and the final battle is coming, is really what the fulfillment of this prophecy is going to tell people. So Rand kind of heads out. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna go find this sword and get going, you know, like he's tired of waiting. Which I understand. And then people freak out when he's gone, but I don't know, like they ostracize him so much. Why would he listen to them? Why would he continue to wait around the camp? I 100% feel for Rand. I'm having a harder time empathizing with some of the other characters, and that's not necessarily the fault of the book, but still. I'm very much invested in Rand's storyline, and I'm sad that we've gotten like a page in total from his point of view. We see him after he's been running away for a day or two, being chased by dogs in the night. Could use some more Rand. Other things happening is once we finish with Perrin's point of view, we enter Egwene's point of view, and that she finally gets to Tarvalon with Nynaeve, She finally gets to Tarvalon with Nynaeve, Baron, Elaine, and Matt. So they've been traveling forever. I did not expect it to take them this long to get to Tarvalon. And finally they get there, and Matt is unconscious now because he's still being hurt by the dagger, even though they did find it at the end of the Great Hunt. So he was getting hurt at a slower rate, but he was definitely still suffering from his connection to the dagger. And things are pretty grim. They get to Tarvalon and people are estimating that he has hours. And then 5 chapters pass and we don't get any updates on Matt. I still don't know what's happened to him. Instead, we see conversations between Egwene and Nynaeve and Moiraine and various people, not Moiraine, and Baron and various people, with the Amerlin seat kind of catching up. Rumors have spread. People think that Egwene and Nynaeve ran away from Tarvalon when really they were tricked by Liandrin, who is 100% a dark friend. They don't want to talk about it. The Aes Sedai do not acknowledge the existence of the black I can't remember what it's called, but the Black Aes Sedai. And so they're essentially going to be punished. They have like to scrub floors and do dishes or something like that. But that happens, and I was so frustrated, and I've been frustrated this whole time. I hate Egwene for it, but Nynaeve was doing it a lot. The Amerlin seat. It's really, so many of the female characters in the Wheel Time, if it's at all possible for them to talk down to another character, they do it. Like if there's at all any difference in rank between one of them and another character, whoever they're talking to, and they can talk down to them, they take that opportunity. They take it, and I hate it so much. I talked about how I didn't like how Egwene did a lot with Rand when they were together, but Nynaeve does it with Egwene, and the Amerlin seat does it with Nynaeve and Egwene and everyone else. There's this intense hierarchy among people, and anyone below you in that hierarchy is like dumb, and they talk to each other like that as if they're just dumb. They don't know any better, and they speak to each other as if they're all children. But Nynaeve is a full-grown adult, and so that was really frustrating for me. And Egwene isn't a child either, and yet sometimes Nynaeve talks to her as though she is one. And I don't care what mistakes or naiveties Egwene has, she's still not a child. She can have a true conversation and discussion, or at least she should be able to, though her conversations with Rand certainly don't show that very well. In theory, she should, and so it bothers me, even though I don't like Egwene, when a knave talks down to her too. And I don't get it. It's frustrating to me. It's this weird kind of, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it except to say that it grates on my nerves. So that was my biggest takeaway from this first section, is how prevalent that habit is, and it really bothers me. Additionally, there was this guy that like died. We learned about people like soulless gray men who gave their souls to serve the Dark One, and then there was this assassin that came to try to kill Egwene, or at least it seems like he was aiming for Egwene. I don't know who else he might have tried to kill if he hadn't died, but then Nynaeve used wind to keep him still and captured until they caught up to him, and when they found him, he was dead. He had gotten stabbed. And then Baron comes up, I think, no, it's not Baron, Shiriam, or the head of the novices in Tarvalon. She comes up and she finds them with this dead body, and she's like, wow, that's weird. But she doesn't really inquire about how this happened. She doesn't talk about, well, Nynaeve and Egwene, and I don't think Elaine is there, but Nynaeve and Egwene say that they just found the body, right? So she doesn't ask them for like more details. She just really takes it in stride and is like, wow, we got to get that out of the way. And that's pretty wild, especially because this is coming right after a conversation that Egwene and Nynaeve had with the Amerlin seeds about how they're going to be her undercover spies to seek out the Black Aja, that's what it's called, the Black Aja. And so they're looking for dark friends among the Aes Sedai. And so now they're hyper aware of their interactions with other people, though they probably would have been anyway after Liandrin's betrayal. But Nynaeve, when they walk away from the conversation, makes the comment that Shiriam never asked how the man got stabbed. She didn't even think to ask. It's also pretty convenient that she was there, but at the same time, she is the head of the novices, and they were in the wing where the dorms are. So when Egwene asked her what she was doing in that area, she, again, like everybody above anyone else in this world, was like, I don't have to answer to you. I'm here. Why do I need a reason to be here as the head of the novices? So didn't really get any answers either. And then someone was cleaning up, right? There was the guy that they found who was dead, but somebody stabbed him. And then the crossbow bolt that they attempted to assassinate Egwene with disappeared. So there's this like person running around Tarvalon trying to kill them, and I don't know who it is, and we don't know if they could be working with anybody else, and I don't know what that situation is. But what I really want to know at this point in time is what is happening with Matt, because by now enough time has passed. I think enough time has passed. I feel like it's been a few hours in the book that he's either been cured or stabilized or he's dead, and I just need some confirmation for what is happening with Matt. He's not my favorite, but at the same time, I feel like he has been under the influence of the dagger a lot, so I'll give him that. I'll forgive him for his actions for that. And then he was annoying me before he got the dagger because he was being kind of stupid, but maybe the dagger has helped him be less stupid. So I hope he survives so that I can see what happens to him in the future and what he keeps doing after this experience. But I don't know, because they won't tell me. So that's where I am right now, and we shall see what happens in the rest of the book. I hope we get more of Perrins' perspective. He's been very absent, and he's my favorite character. Alright, so I am incredibly overdue for an update on The Dragon Reborn, the third book in the real-time series. This is only the second update that I've done for this vlog, and honestly, it's because my reading for this book has been really weird. I mentioned in the second book's video that it was a little hard for me to stay engaged and I was reading it a little slower. Well, this book I'm reading even slower, and so every day I might read 1 or 2 chapters and then stop, and that's not really enough content for me to have anything significant to come on here and comment about. But then too many days pass, and by the time I have read a significant chunk of chapters, I have forgotten some of the key events from the first couple of chapters that I read several days earlier, or even just how I was feeling exactly at that time. So then I delay updating, and now suddenly I am almost 2/3 of the way through and on chapter 38. So much has happened. A lot has happened, but I am much more invested than I was early in the book. So that's why I'm coming on here, because I actually have things to say. First, when I left off, essentially, I think Egwene and people had just gotten to Tarvalon with Matt. And I didn't know what was going on with Matt. Well, a couple of things happened that I think were pretty big. One, Egwene and Elaine went through the arches to like face their fears in order to become accepted instead of just novices, which is one step closer to being Aes Sedai. So that was pretty wild, and we didn't get to see Elaine's fear sequence, but we did get to see Egwene's, and hers were very Rand-centered. She was just very scared in every dream about not having to help Rand, or not being able to help Rand, or something bad happening to him. So that's where that went. And then we saw Matt get mostly healed, but something's definitely going on with him. He is not fully healed yet. He is still recovering, which means that he is eating like a lot. And in addition to that, he has also had this weird bout of luck. So Matt leaves Tarvalon even though the Aes Sedai do not want him to, most likely due to the fact that because he blew the horn of Valbyr at the end of the second book, he's now the only one who can blow the horn until he dies. So for a while it was looking like they might just let him die while he was sick, but they saved him. So it seems to be like they want to use him for something. It's unclear why they saved him rather than like letting him die and let someone else blow the horn. But they definitely need him to do that. So they didn't want him to leave, but he did. Mostly because, one, he wanted to, and then he had the means to, because Egwene and Nave and Elaine are going somewhere, and they gave him a letter from the Amerlin, though she didn't intend for them to give it to him. But it essentially gives whoever has it like a get out of jail free card. It tells them, whoever reads it, that they are doing business for the Amerlin seat, and so that means that they can get places they wouldn't ordinarily be able to get to. So he's able to leave, and to collect money for his journey, he ends up having to play dice, and his dice are so lucky. He wins and rolls the best dice like every single time. So by the time he leaves Tarvalon, he's fairly rich. Like, he has a lot of coin. And another reason why he left was because Elaine gave him a letter to carry to her mother. And that's kind of where we leave him. The last thing that happened with Matt was that he was on this ship on his way out of Tarvalon, and then he got attacked. There were people who like jumped aboard the ship, and he killed a few of them. And then Tom Merrilin is traveling with him now, so he also helped kill some of them. And we don't know who they were or why they were attacking him. Later in the book, we see that the Dark One is having like a conference with people, and one of the things he says is, "I can't believe you let the boy leave Tarvalon." And the only boy we know of who has left Tarvalon is Matt. So my working theory is that the people who attacked him are somehow related to the Dark One. Why the Dark One is interested in Matt, I'm not really sure. Maybe also because he can blow the horn. But I don't know why I don't know, the way it was phrased kind of made it seem like he wanted Matt to stay in Tar Valon, and I don't know if that's just so he knows where he is, or if he wants to get him to like blow the horn for the Dark One, or if he was just on his way to kill him. I don't know. So that happened. And the only reason we saw that was because we saw Perrin. So Perrin was like doing this weird dream walking thing and heard this conversation happen and things like that. It was weird. I don't fully understand what's going on with Perrin. I don't think Perrin really knows what's going on with Perrin, or anybody really. He seems to definitely have some connection to some kind of magic, like something, but it's not the magic that thus far we know, right? We know about the one power, and we know about how it's split into the male half and the female half, and that's it. But whatever Perrin's doing is something different, and the mechanism behind that is not clear at all at this point in time. Thus far, we've spent a lot of time with Perrin at the very beginning of the book. We've spent a lot of time with Egwene in her narration, and then we've spent a lot of time with Matt. So Egwene's narration took up another chunk, and basically she's just off searching for dark friends. She and Nynaeve and Elaine are now headed somewhere, but I forget exactly where. I think it's Tyr, because they found a lot of evidence from some Aes Sedai who fled Tar Valon and are suspected dark friends. There was a lot of evidence in their stuff they left behind that they were credited here. There was so much evidence that it's a suspicious amount of evidence, so they really feel like they're heading into a trap, but they're just going to see what it's all about. Kind of hoping that they'll be okay because they know that they're heading into a trap. So that's going on. Historically, Egwene has not been my favorite character. She's still not my favorite, but I'm liking her more. I definitely don't mind her narration, like just when she's thinking. I admire her commitment to like learning to be Aes Sedai and wanting to just know as much as she can about how to exist in the world and like take care of herself and those she cares about. And when she's not talking to anyone, she's fine. As soon as she starts talking, sometimes things get on my nerves. That being said, I also was not into her relationship with Rand, but even in her narration, she has really started to let go of that more. And while I do wish that they were able to maintain a friendship, because it seems like they grew up childhood friends, if they're going to be separate, I at least don't want her to be thinking about how, like, I hated when she was weirdly jealous about other women being interested in Rand when she made it very clear that she wasn't going to do anything with Rand. And it just bothers me because I was like, Rand can do whatever he wants to do, and he wasn't even doing much. So anytime that came up, it was irritating, and she's kind of stopped doing that. So that's nice. But because we've had so much Perrin and Egwene and Matt, we have had far less Rand, which has been very disappointing to me because his point of view chapters were my favorite. Although in this book, they have shifted dramatically, I feel like. They have become far more just desolate and like sad, and it's not, and like desperate. And Rand is going to this place where he feels like he'll either get the sword of Kalendor and like confirm he's the dragon reborn, and like the Dark One will come and challenge him, and then one way or another, one of them will die and it will all be over. Even though he's not really ready to face the Dark One. And he's also not even necessarily ready to wield Kalendor. Like, he doesn't know anything. But he's doing this because he's tired of sitting, and he's tired of waiting, and he's tired of being chased. And that makes me kind of sad, because right now Rand is fairly desperate. And I don't know, he's desperate and alone, right? I feel like I really enjoyed his character in The Great Hunt because he was traveling with other people, and in that traveling we saw him take responsibility for those people and like lead them when he had to. But now he's all by himself, so he's not really being a leader at all. That being said, Moraine didn't let him. So I mentioned in the last clip, I think, that he had been getting into lots of arguments with Moraine about what they should do next and when they should leave the camp, and then he eventually just left on his own. So Moraine was kind of being a problem, but still, I wish I were seeing more evidence of like the methodical responsibility taking clear-headed leader like Rand that I feel like I saw in The Great Hunt, whereas in The Dragon Reborn it's a completely different Rand. Now, is it inexplicable that he's like that? No, I get it. It's just not the direction I hoped he would go in. So that's happening, and I'm worried about him, but I also don't really know what's going on. He's just traveling, and occasionally we get like a little snippet, half a page or so, from his perspective, where he is being attacked by something or other as he tries to travel. And occasionally someone that dreamwalks, I'm calling it dreamwalking, I don't know what the official word might be, but Egwene and Perrin will occasionally appear in his dreams, but he attacks them because the Dark One has been trying to talk to him in his dreams using the faces of people he loves. So in a dream, he can't tell who is who's evil and who might really be who they say they are, which is also kind of sad. And I don't know, Rand's chapters are just depressing. Wild stuff happening with Perrin. He, Moraine, Lan, and Loial are still trying to find Rand, so they're following his trail, but they are always a little behind. And they see evidence of Rand's passing because Rand is such a strong Ta'veren. He affects cities very impressively. They'll pass through a town and like either the town has had a great streak of luck and something really almost miraculous has happened, or the opposite has happened and the town has been hit with a really hard time of some kind. There's been a drought or there's been a new famine or something like that. And it's supposedly the pattern's reaction to Rand. Like, Rand is such a strong Ta'veren that chance around him gets super skewed and like anything can happen. So they're following this trail and something really wild happens because they encounter a town where there's a man in a cage and it becomes clear that he's an Aleman. And before Perrin left the camp, Min told him a prophecy, and she just, like, from the symbols she sees around people, and it wasn't clear at all what these symbols meant, but we're starting to see evidence of them come up. So Min told him that around him she saw an Aleman in a cage, and that would be a time for him to make like an important decision or something like that. And ultimately what happens is that Perrin goes and takes the guy out of the cage and frees him, but he gets seen, so they have to kill like a dozen white cloaks and then leave the town very quickly. Which was kind of sad because this town actually was quite well equipped to house an Ogier, and so Loial had like a really nice fancy Ogier-sized sungwood bed and a really nice armchair. And when Perrin goes in to tell him that they have to go, Loial's in there reading his book and he's so cozy. I just want him to stay there forever and be cozy, but they have to go. So that happens, and then later they're on a ship because they had to flee, and Perrin meets a girl named a lot of things. When he meets her, first she's going under the name Mandarb, but then learns that that's the name of Lan's horse. So it's not the most regal name anymore now that she knows that a horse is also named Mandarb. So then she tells him that her real name is Zareen, but then she asks him to call her Faile, Faile, I think, which means falcon in some language. And that's significant because one of the things Min told Perrin was that she saw a falcon and a hawk perched on his shoulders, both female. I don't know what that means either, but I like Faile. She is one of the very few female characters in the Wheel of Time that did not talk to Perrin like he was a small child and didn't know anything and had to be ordered about, and just, she didn't talk down to him. She came up to him and said something. She was just super funny the whole time. Like, she mentioned how she had seen him take down the white cloaks in the town that they had both just left, and she's like, you did it with such ease. It seems as if you do that all the time. And I thought that it was really funny. So right now, Faile, a favorite. I only saw her for like a couple pages, but I liked her. And another thing when it comes to this weird habit that a lot of these characters have, talking down to other people, Nynaeve is such a bad, she does this so much. And maybe the best scene with Nynaeve and Egwene that has ever happened was in the most recent chapter I read, where Nynaeve is telling them that they just need to go do something, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was take a certain route. They were on a ship that crashed, and Nynaeve was saying that they just need to get off and travel to the nearest village by foot. And Egwene's like, why? And at first you can tell that Nynaeve is like really angry that she would dare question her, and she would want to again talk down to her and just say, no, do whatever I say you should do. But instead, she actually bites her tongue and explains her plan, and then Egwene's like, okay, yeah, fine, that's a good idea. And she does it reluctantly because it admits Nynaeve is right, and Nynaeve cannot handle that responsibility because she is so... I don't know the word. Anyway, I just enjoy it because Egwene has really started to call Nynaeve out on the fact that, one, she's not the town wisdom anymore. So yeah, she used to have this like authority over the townspeople, but she left that. She left Eamon's Field. She's training to be an Aes Sedai. She hasn't been there in months. That's not her role anymore. And so Egwene does not owe her anything. Second, now that they're all raised to the accepted level, they are all in the same like peer group. They're all in the same level of Aes Sedai, and so Nynaeve has no right to treat Egwene like she is under her. So props to Egwene for calling her out on it, because it's so annoying to me, and I just hope that she does that more, because Nynaeve is just... she's the worst. She's the worst of them all when it comes to talking down to people, and also being inexplicably and unreasonably angry at things that just aren't people's fault. Like, she's still so angry at Moiraine for ruining their lives, even though the Dark One was going to find them no matter what. Moiraine did not cause that to happen. If anything, I still hold that they're only alive because she's been guiding them. So, and Moiraine has her problems, but on average, I like her. I think that even though Moiraine falls into a lot of the pitfalls that I don't like about Nynaeve and some of the other Aes Sedai, especially when it comes to their own air of self-importance and like talking down to other people, Moiraine does it in such a way that I actually feel like she's right. Like, I respect and understand Moiraine's authority more than I respect or understand Nynaeve's idea of her own authority. So when Moiraine is telling people to do things, it's because she's trained to be an Aes Sedai, and she knows so much more about the magic and the stakes, I think, than anyone else, really. And whether I think it's good that she actually seems to be holding so much of it back from people or not is up for debate. I don't know that I feel like she's necessarily handling everything exactly right. I'm still not sure what her ultimate plan is, but it is pretty clear that she knows a lot of stuff. So when she's ordering people about, she has a very good reason for it. And Nynaeve seems to want to have that same weight without being nearly as old or as educated. Not uneducated. Nynaeve was the town wisdom. Nynaeve is very well versed in a lot of things, but they're in this completely new realm, and Nynaeve is not handling the fact that she is not an expert in this new realm as well as she should, or as well as she could. You know, she's very resentful of the fact that there's a lot she doesn't know, and there's a lot of authority she no longer has, and then she takes it out on other people, and I hate that. Okay, so I think at this point I have finally caught you up. I am looking forward to see what happens with everybody really, and just hope that someday I'll get more Rand chapters. But until I do, I'll just continue to see what happens, and I'll update you on the next vlog. Probably, honestly, when I'm done or very close to done, there'll only be 1 or 2 more updates at this point for this video. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Alright, so I'm here to wrap up this vlog on The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan. I finished it the day before yesterday, and it blew my mind. I want to figure out some way to do some of this recording in real time. I think that in the future, when I get near like the end-ish of a book, I might try to set up my tripod and the camera to get some in real-time live reactions, because now it's been a couple of days, but when I first was reading this, I was freaking out. And it's going to be kind of hard to summon that kind of energy here, sitting down, formally filming, but I'm going to do my best, and I need you to envision it, because this was wild. I don't even remember where the last bit of vlog left off, but I know that I had like a third, maybe the last couple 100 pages to finish in this book. And so many things happened. Okay, I'm gonna try to go character by character, right? So let's start with the fact that Rand came back, and I was so happy. We got like almost a whole chapter from his perspective. We got like half a chapter and then a couple more paragraphs. So that was fun, because I've been missing his perspective all book. He didn't really do anything this book. He like went from the camp where he was with the Shinarans, and then he went to Tyr, and that's it. In the middle, he was being chased and attacked, and he killed some people, but definitely glossed over that. We did not see him. But he gets to Tyr, and he finds Kalendor. He like just walks up the wall and gets into this fortress, and he has to get Kalendor, because if he can hold Kalendor and he can get all the way to him, or to it, then it will be confirmation of him being the dragon, because only the Dragon Reborn is supposed to be able to wield Kalendor. So Rand is setting out to do this to prove to himself that he's the Dragon Reborn, and then work from there really to prove to others or to move on with his life. Well, he gets it, and it was this crazy battle between Rand and Baalzamon, and he actually, I think, really for realsies killed Baalzamon. Now, we learned at the end of The Dragon Reborn that Baalzamon isn't even the Dark One. So that was wild. I feel like I have flipped and flopped all 3 books whether I thought Baalzamon was the Dark One. I started The Eye of the World with like a healthy amount of skepticism. There was a lot I didn't know. And The Great Hunt, I feel like I got more comfortable with the world, and I was starting to feel like, yeah, Baalzamon's got to be the Dark One. Why would we last a whole 2 and into the 3rd books thinking the Dark One is one person, and then the Dark One isn't one person? And yet somehow that's what's happened, because Rand kills Baalzamon, and everyone's like, yeah, but the Dark One definitely can't be dead. There's no way Baalzamon was the Dark One, because come on, he was too puny. The Dark One is the Dark One, and that's still vague. I mean, what form would the Dark One take if he got out of his prison? I have no idea. But at the end of The Dragon Reborn, they're like, yeah, no, you're celebrating way too early. It's not the Dark One. And I was just like, is nothing true? Do I know anything? Because just when I thought I knew some stuff, I didn't know any stuff. And eventually they settle on this idea that Baalzamon was probably Ishmael in a different, she was just using a different name. And Baalzamon is the Trolloc name for the Dark One. It just seems like he was out there pranking everybody, going by a different name. And I was suspicious, and then I let myself forget that suspicion. There was a scene where Baalzamon is talking to Lanfear. Perrin overhears them when he is doing his dream walking, roaming thing, and he hears them talking about the Dark One in the third perspective. Lanfear is complaining about something, and Baal-Zemaun is like, are your ties to the Dark One really that weak? Would you really betray him like that, or something like that? But Baal-Zemaun is speaking in the third person, and so it doesn't make sense that he would be talking to Lanfear like that. Why isn't he saying, oh, why aren't your loyalties to me stronger? Why are your loyalties to me weakening? But he doesn't. He says the Dark One. So that was the first scene where I really saw true evidence, other than my own skepticism, that Baal-Zemaun might not really be the Dark One. But then there was no other sign, so I was really confused and I didn't get it, and I forgot, and I wasn't expecting it. And then later, when he actually dies and Rand is about to strike, he actually says, highlighted it, he's dying, and he says, the great Lord of the Dark can never be defeated. Which was also the second in this book, like, red light, because he's speaking in the third person again, and he is literally dying fairly violently while he's saying the Dark One cannot be defeated. He's looking pretty defeated, so if he's the Dark One, he seems pretty defeated. Now, he's done that twice, right? Baal-Zemaun appeared to die at the end of the Eye of the World, and he appeared to die at the end of the Great Hunt. Baal-Zemaun's very hard to kill, but Kalendor is also an extremely powerful weapon. So and Baal-Zemaun was kind of making Rand chase him around because he actually seemed fearful of Kalendor. So now that he has been slayed with Kalendor, I feel pretty strongly that he should be dead. Hopefully. But what that means is that in this scene, he was implying that there was someone out there that still remained. So that was wild. Baal-Zemaun's not the Dark One. The Dark One's out there chilling in his prison or something like that. Then we've got Rand, who declares for everybody with the sword that he is the Dragon Reborn. So now we've got more evidence. I don't know why everyone is so super reluctant to believe it. Well, I know why Rand would be super reluctant, but even people who seem to really firmly believe this, like Moiraine, are really they're still looking for confirmation, and I don't know what they want to do with that confirmation, different from what they are doing already. So now everyone's pretty convinced, or at least, you know, everyone who was there and saw the sword and things like that. So I don't even know what's going to happen now, like what steps Rand is going to take now that he has declared himself to be the Dragon Reborn. But I thought the end of the Great Hunt was some pretty good confirmation, and yet now we've got even more confirmation. Then you've got people like Matt. Matt spent most of the time just trying to get away from Tar Valon, but then he got sent on this messaging quest by Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine. It was a weird situation. They just wanted him to deliver a letter to Egwene's mother. Not Egwene, to Elaine's mother. And he did it. But they spent the whole time being incredibly ungrateful. And he delivers the letter, and then he learns that someone is out to kill them. So reasonably, Matt decides to go help them, and he tries to find them in Tyr, and he gets there too late. By the time Matt finally gets there, they have been captured, and he goes to rescue them. He does it, and then they just don't appreciate it. They still talk to him like he's an idiot with nothing to contribute. They do it for the whole rest of the book too. They do it as soon as they're out of the cells. They do it while he's trying to help them fight, because a fight has broken out in Tyr between like Dark Friends and the Ale and random others who are hanging around Tyr. Or the stone in Tyr, the fortress thingy. And then at the very end, they're talking about what really happened and if Baal-Zemon's the Dark One and things like that. And Matt is trying to ask questions or trying to say things, and they just keep shutting him down. Nynaeve is just like, you don't know anything. Stop talking. And he's like, okay, well, could you just hold on a second and answer my questions? And then Moraine looks at him kind of scornfully, like, fine, what are your questions? And it is so irritating because they don't let him speak because he doesn't know anything. And then they don't let him ask any questions because he doesn't know anything. And yet he has clearly proven himself beyond a doubt in this book that he has things to contribute. I mean, I'm not Matt's biggest fan. Matt has irritated me so much in so many places, yet at the same time, I 100% recognize that he came through at the end of The Dragon Reborn. He rescued Nynaeve, Elaine, and Egwene when they got captured, and they probably wouldn't have gotten out of there without him. He saved them, even though when he left Tar Valon, he told them that he was really grateful for their help, and if they ever needed his help to call on him. And they kind of brushed off his offer like super impatiently. They did it multiple times and I hated it. They were basically like, well, if we actually really needed your help, we need it now, as soon as we need it. And if you're somewhere across the country, you'll never be able to help us, so that's a meaningless offer. And that's just not true. It takes away from the sentiment. First of all, they like gave no value to the sentiment. And two, Matt was grateful to them and thinks of them as friends. And so when he learned they were in danger, he went to help them like he said he would. And he was successful. So their ingratitude is just the most ridiculous thing ever. But so he did that. And now I don't know what Matt's next step is. I think he is hoping that he'll be able to like leave everything behind, but he knows that he can't, because at the end of the day, he's still the one who blew the horn at Valir. And so that means that he's still going to be needed in the last battle. But that brings us to Nynaeve, Egwene, and Elaine consistently got more and more irritating across the book. Their heads are probably 5 times as big as when they started, and there's no justification for it. I feel like over the course of this book, I gained a better appreciation for Egwene. She stopped being so weird about Brand. She's still basically avoiding him like the plague, but at least she isn't also still trying to maintain anything else that she's not acting on. Like, she stopped thinking about him as really belonging to her in any kind of way. But so that's better. However, I have gained a better appreciation for Egwene in the sense that I enjoy her dedication to learning. She really wants to be Aes Sedai. She really wants to learn how to channel well, and she has this general curiosity for things that I think is pretty cool. And she calls Nynaeve out when she's being the worst. So multiple times throughout the book, Nynaeve takes for granted that the other two are just going to follow her and worship the ground she walks on, and Egwene forces her to stop and explain herself. And yeah, most of the time Nynaeve is right. It's true that Nynaeve has a lot of good ideas. Nynaeve is smart. But that doesn't mean that the others need to blindly follow her. So she shouldn't feel like she never has to explain herself. Maybe they have something to contribute as well. So multiple times Egwene forces Nynaeve to stop and explain before she expects them to agree and go along with whatever plan she's got going on. And I found that so satisfying. There's barely any words for how satisfying that was. So good. So good. So more Egwene appreciation, still annoying. They're the 3 most irritating characters in the whole book to me right now, the whole series. I can't. Every now and again they have their moments, but for the most part, wow. Wow. And Elaine was just there, basically following after Egwene and Nynaeve. She's done. I'm done with her. Alright, then we get into just a storyline that finally gave me everything I wanted, and I hope I see more of it, and I hope we get so much more from these 2 characters. When we first met Zareen, or Fail, she used to be called Fail, so I guess I'll give that a shot, but I don't like that name. She was so good. Like, just the first scene when we meet her, I loved it. I instantly loved her in that scene. She did none of the things that so many of the other female characters we've met do, which is really kind of sit up on a high horse. She didn't do that. She was definitely teasing, and she was poking fun at Perrin, and I can see why he was irritated with her, but I liked her. I liked reading about her. So I liked her. And she joins them on their quest because she is hunting for the horn of Alir, and she thinks that they are going to lead her to it because they're a weird cast of characters. Perrin, Marine, Loyal, and Lan are all traveling together, and they're just such a weird group that she feels like, this feels like a lead. You're a weird group. You're probably going to end up in weird situations, and I might learn a lot if I come with you. So she does that, and it's true. They know where the horn is. She ends up finding it, but she's no longer, like, she's not going to be the one to find it. Someone else found it. And at this point, she's just tagging along because she's kind of bound to them now because she knows too much. But on the sidelines, we have this little mini plot arc situation where they're in Tyr, and Perrin starts to work as a blacksmith again because there's a guy there and his apprentices are no good. So he offers Perrin work, and so Perrin spends a few days at the forge working, and he does a really good job, and he is so much more in his comfort zone than he has been in the past, and Vale has nothing to do but watch him. So she's just hanging out by the forge, and at the very end, there's a trap set for Moraine, and Vale gets into it, and she ends up trapped in this other world dream place. There's a word for it. Hold on. It's also a chapter name. It is called Teleranrioid. Teleranrioid. You know. Chapter 27. And she gets trapped in there, and she's gonna die because her mind and her soul are trapped in there, and her body is just going to wither away. So Perrin uses his weird werewolf powers, and he enters Teleranrioid by going to sleep essentially, but deliberately searching out these weird wolf dreams he's been having. And he encounters Hopper, his like spirit guide wolf, and they go through this realm, and they're searching for Fail, and they repeatedly find things that look like her, but then they just disappear because apparently there are so many possibilities and outcomes in this realm that he's just finding different ones that could have been, and he has to search for the Fail that is from like his realm, the real Fail. And it was so good. It was so good. I want to pull some of my favorite quotes. I jumped out of my chair to go get my highlighters because I wanted to have these quotes ready so that I could come look at them whenever I wanted to, because it was going to be so good. I could feel it. So Perrin gets into this realm, and basically Hopper has been telling him that he cannot be in this realm. This realm is too much for him. He's not strong enough. He doesn't know enough to be able to navigate his way safely in it, and so he should just really not be there. So Hopper continues to tell him that, and then even more than that, he's there too strongly. So like too much of himself is in that realm, and he's really in danger of his body dying before he can get back. And Hopper says, "You are here too strongly. You will die, young bull." And then Perrin says, "If I do not free the falcon, I do not care, brother." So good. So good. So good. And unlike Nynaeve, Egwene, and Elaine, when he comes to help her, Fail is actually grateful. And you can make all the arguments you want about women being rescued in books. Like, yeah, maybe it would have been really cool if some of these women could have rescued themselves, but they don't have to be the fact is that they got rescued. That doesn't mean they have to be mean about it either. So that bothers me. That bothers me quite a bit. But anyway, here, just this whole section in pink. She's like, my poor parent, she said softly. My poor parent, she said softly. My poor blacksmith, you are hurt so badly. With an effort that cost more pain, he turned his head. This was the private dining room in the Star, and near one leg of the table lay a wooden carving of a hedgehog, broken in half. Fail, he whispered to her, my falcon. So cute. I was shipping them the whole book. I hope bad things don't happen to them because I'll be really sad. Other things. So I was really excited about that thread just because I have hated every single other romance thread in the book. I get that it's not a big feature of the text, but where it is, it's bad. I don't like it. I haven't liked the Queen. I don't like anything surrounding Grand. Any of the ties he has to the women in this book. Lan and Nynaeve are more interesting, except I hate Nynaeve. So I kind of feel like Lan really just needs to drop that. But Perrin and Fail, I like it. I hope nothing bad happens to them. And I think those are the main things that came out of this. So I have no idea. I don't know. I don't feel like I have anything to gauge my expectations on. I don't know enough about the scope of a lot of things, the extent and the mechanisms behind some of the risks. Like, okay, the Dark One gets out. What form does he take? What's gonna happen? How do you keep him in? What is Rand supposed to do now that he's the Dragon Reborn? Like, Luce Theron supposedly sealed the holes in the Dark One's prison, but how? How are the seals being broken now? What's going on with that? I don't know. Where's Padan Fane? He was a big deal in the Great Hunt and he's gone now. So, I don't know. What's he doing? The Shan Chan, gone in this book. What are they doing? I don't know. I don't know. Wild stuff. This is going to be the last installment for a little while. My boyfriend and I really want to play The Witcher 3, the video game. But before we do that, we really want to read the original Witcher books. So we are going to take a break and put our attention towards reading the Witcher books for a while because we want to make sure that we can read them in time to really spend a significant chunk of time playing The Witcher 3 over the summer before I start working again in the fall. So we're going to try to zoom through those books, and that means that we won't jump straight into The Shadow Rising until after at least another book or 2 or 3 of the Witcher series. So taking a break. This is going to be the last installment for a little bit, but we will be back. I am excited for The Shadow Rising because of the first chunk of books. That one is my boyfriend's favorite, and I'm just really excited to see some of the outcomes of these first 3 books, like Rand being the Dragon Reborn for surezies and how that's going to play out. Fail and Perrin, what's going to happen with that. The Return of Rand chapters. My boyfriend told me there was a statistic he read that Rand's perspective is only like 2 or 5% of this book. It's like nothing. But he's in like a quarter of the next book, so I'm excited to see that again because I miss his chapters. And hopefully we'll get more information on like what's happening in Tar Valon. Min has been heading over to Tar Valon this whole book. What's she gonna do over there? What's up with her? So there's so much happening, so much to see, and we'll get there someday. So I don't know when I will start reading The Shadow Rising. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I usually keep an up-to-date kind of fancy picture there of whatever I'm currently reading, so you'll get a sense of when I stop reading The Witcher and jump back into the wheel of time there. Otherwise, just hang out on my channel. These videos will be back, but for now, that's everything for me today. I hope you have enjoyed what you have seen. Please be sure to comment if you'd like, but remember to keep things specifically tied into the first 3 books to avoid spoilers. I will continue to have all comments held for review until they can be moderated and then published. And I hope I'll see you next time. Bye.